100 billion per annum, which cannot be made by public sector. The government doesn't have that kind of money. Nigeria's annual budget is only $30 billion. For these and many other reasons, therefore, a warm handshake, Mr. President, with the private sector is inevitable for any economic policy or program to succeed. Indeed, private sector leadership in driving growth is the first of the three key principles of my economic growth and development agenda as calculated in my covenant with Nigerians. So, members of chambers and members of the public, you ask me, what is their economic policy that can lift Nigeria up from the abyss? Before I answer you, I'd like to give you a brief background. In all my life endeavors, whether as a businessman or as a public officer, I have always nurtured a desire to create abundant opportunities for people and enhance their capability to explore those opportunities so that they live a happy, healthy, and productive life. There is nothing I enjoy like making you rich. I feel fulfilled when I create prosperity for others. I don't envy, and I don't jealous, and I don't put roadblocks. Creating economic opportunities for Nigerians will represent significant implications for social cohesion and national security. Increased jobs and income opportunities will reduce the likelihood of our youth being involved in crime, violence, and conflict, motivated by manipulating religious, ethnic, or regional differences. Economic prosperity is an integral part of my 5-point agenda, soon to be officially unveiled, that seeks to restore Nigeria's unity. 1, strengthen national security. 2, foster economic prosperity. 3, improve education. 4, delivery and restructure equality. 5. Indeed, economic prosperity is a thread that runs through the other critical elements of the agenda. Today, I will speak on the strategic steps I will take to build or to rebuild the economy of our dreams and foster boundless prosperity for all Nigerians. Let me therefore crave your indulgence to ask, so where is the Nigerian economy today? It is important to first understand where we are, because policy prescriptions must always be preceded by diagnosis. So before I outline the contours of my economic growth and development agenda, permit me to remind ourselves of the key challenges facing the economy. I will focus on 5 key deficiencies of the economy, which all turn out to be self-inflicted. The Nigerian economy is crawling rather than growing. Nigeria's GDP grew at an average rate of less than 1% since the APC assumed power in 2015. Less than 1%. Compare this with an average growth of 6.5% in the 7 years earlier. Per capita income, a measure of citizens' well-being, has progressively fallen since 2015 because of declining output and a fast-growing population. Nigerians are worse off today than they were in 2015. We all know that as a fact. And why are we denying ourselves the truth and the facts? The current rate of growth of about 3.5 marks the real challenges facing the economy. The economy remains very fragile as the key sectors are either growing slowly, as with agriculture, or contracting, as with oil and gas. The oil and gas sector, which is the economy's lifeline, has suffered decline in 19 out of 30 quarters since 2014. For many economic sectors and for the ordinary citizens, it still feels as if we are in a recession. Under the present administration, our people are not working. More than 23 million people are out of jobs. In just 5 years between 2015 and 2020, the number of fully employed people dropped by 54%, from 68 million to 31 million people. The number of unemployed people is more than the population of Lagos State or the inhabitants of the Federal Capital Territory, Abia, Bayelsa, Cross River, Ebonyi, Kwara, and Nasarawa states combined. What is even more worrisome is that the majority of the unemployed are young men and women who lack not only the means to survive, but any hope for future. The number of unemployed youths increased by 9 million from 4 million in 2015 to 13 million in 2020. High youth unemployment and limited employment opportunities pose serious economic and security challenges which we are facing. Ensuring there are enough jobs for Nigeria's youth is therefore already an urgent concern. More Nigerians are poorer and more miserable today than in 2015. Why am I comparing 2015 and this year's? It's because there has been a change of government. So we now know which one is better. Job losses, declining purchasing power per capita income, and lack of citizens' access to basic amenities have pushed more than 90 million people below the poverty line and created more misery for the poor in towns and villages. This year, around 12% of the world population in extreme poverty, with the poverty threshold as $1.90 a day, live in Nigeria. That's why we became the poverty capital of the world. Basic commodities are now beyond the reach of the average Nigerian. A loaf of bread costs 100% more today than it did in 2020. Farmers now pay more than 200% for a bag of fertilizer if they see it than they did in 2020. Nigeria is being dressed in borrowed robes. Sure, you know what is it to borrow robes and put on yourself. Nigeria under the APC-led government has consistently run on budget deficits since it came to power in 2015. These budget deficits are often above the 3% threshold permissible under the Fiscal Responsibility Act or law. Ironically, this has increased the government's appetite for more debts, now more than 50 trillion, if you add AMCON debts and Ways and Means. For the first time in Nigeria's history, the FGN paid more in debt service than it earned. So what does it mean? It means we're broke. By spending more than 100% of its revenue for debt service, Nigeria is breaching one of the applicable debt sustainability thresholds. The APC-led government is dressing Nigeria in borrowed robes. I say it again. This action puts a big question mark on the capacity of the government to manage its rising debt profile without endangering macroeconomic stability. Indeed, we are concerned that this action is already exposing Nigeria to financial stability issues as we slip from a medium risk of debt distress to high risk of debt distress. Capital has taken a flight. Policy incoherence and flops combined with internal insecurity continue to pose a significant risk to investment and thus output growth. They leave potential investors confused and wary in the Nigerian economy. Foreign direct investment has progressively declined since 2019. It fell sharply from 8.5 billion in quarter one of 2019 to 5.8 billion in quarter one of 2020 and 1.9 billion in quarter one of 2021. We have lost our esteemed position as Africa's preferred investment destination to less endowed nations. Ask me why these economic challenges have persisted and progressively worsened. It has become fashionable for the APC-led government to blame opposition and external factors on Nigeria's economic woes. The evidence, however, is overwhelming that the country's underperformance is largely attributable to leadership failures in management of the state. The failure of leadership by the APC-led government is staring every Nigerian in the face as the country's economic, social, political, and security challenges persist and assume frightening dimensions. An unprepared leadership fails to anticipate impending crisis and is always slow to react. The first policy document designed by this government, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan in 2017, was a reaction to the economic crisis of 2016. Not an initiative, but a reaction. Similarly, the Economic Sustainability Plan was a reaction to the COVID-19 induced economic crisis. Even these reactions were slow to come, and economic recovery has perhaps been premised more on luck rather than planned economic reforms. So, having outlined the challenges we face, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you may quite rightly ask me here, Atiku, what is my vision to get the economy on its feet and create prosperity? The economic growth and development agenda are as follows. Our economic growth and development agenda seeks primarily to stimulate the growth of the economy. It envisions an economy that is modern, dynamic, and competitive, capable of taking its rightful place among the top 20 economies of the world. Nigeria has the potential to double its GDP by 2030 and achieve a per capita income of approximately $5,000. We anticipate growth from our policies that seek to revitalize the real sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, and MSMEs. Rebuilding infrastructure and reducing infrastructure deficit will enhance the carrying capacity of the economy and unleash growth and wealth creation. We will elevate production for export to a top policy priority and long-term investment priority and promote export of our manufactured goods. How do we deliver on these lofty goals? You ask those questions. Here are just a few examples of the sort of strategic steps we plan to take should I be so privileged to be chosen by the Nigerian people to lead them. One, as I said earlier on, a warm handshake with the private sector. In any case, I am one of you. We cannot overcome our economic challenges without significant reforms to restructure the economy and to support the private sector to unleash its growth potential and play a key role in the economy. A strong, productive, and pro-growth private sector is needed to create wealth, generate employment opportunities, and help fight poverty. If you recall, when we were in office from 1999 to 2007, almost every month we will invite a sector of the private sector for a dialogue at the villa. What are your problems? What are your challenges? How do we help you? And so on and so forth. And that is why we record in those years. Has anybody ever invited members of the private sector to a dialogue with this government? Nigerian businesses are significantly impacted by business environment constraints and cannot therefore realize their full potentials. This government has failed to demonstrate a strong commitment to private sector development. No nation on earth has prosperity without the private sector. For example, the several pledges it made to reduce its pervasive influence on the economy and promote private sector-led development remain unfulfilled. Tell me which promise they have ever made to you and they fulfilled. Come on, be honest. Our administration will be different. We will support the private sector to drive growth. We will and we shall. We will establish strong partnership in investing in infrastructure, in creating jobs and income, and in fight against poverty. We will listen to the private sector more. Understanding the private sector and securing their buy-in when policies are designed will determine the success of our economic growth and development agenda. Through regular dialogue with the private sector, we will build consensus, improve trust between us, and make new reform initiatives easier to implement and sustainable. We will restore investor confidence in the Nigerian economy to take risks and invest capital by taking the following steps. One, there will be more clarity, coherence, and consistency, what we call the 3 C's in policy. Nothing could be more threatening to investment flows than an environment that is full of policy flip-flops. Our monetary and fiscal authorities will be better coordinated and shall ensure a stable macroeconomic environment with low inflation, stable exchange rate, and interest rates that will be supportive of business quest for credit. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, read my lips. A stable exchange rate, not one Riyal to one US exchange rate dollar. We will allow CBN the independence to pursue its mandate, but ensure that such policies are not detrimental to Nigeria's quest for foreign direct investment. Investment and Nigeria's long-term growth. For example, we will push for a foreign exchange policy that encourages capital inflows and makes capital outflows less attractive to investors. We will take tough and difficult decisions on security matters without fear or favor. Investment is a coward animal and is fearful of conflicts and insecurity. I will break the jinx in infrastructure financing. The government is currently driving key infrastructural programs with very limited private sector participation. In the face of the dwindling public revenues and given the quantum of resources required to bridge the financing deficit, this is neither feasible nor sustainable. We shall incentivize with regulation and tax incentives a consortium of private sector institutions to establish an infrastructure debt fund with an initial carrying capacity of USD 20 billion. This will be for the financing and delivery of large infrastructure projects across all sectors of the economy. We will establish an infrastructure development unit in the presidency with a coordinating function and a specific mandate of working with the NDAs to fast track and drive the process of infrastructure development in the country. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I will lead Nigeria out of darkness. Our administration will consider declaring a state of emergency in the power sector to underscore our concerns about the state of affairs in the sector. As a short-term measure to ensure enhanced supply within the first year of the new administration, I shall initiate and implement an emergency power program that can deliver additional capacity in certain areas. Over the medium term, I will then go on to propose a legislation for the removal of the entire electricity value chain from the exclusive list and give states the power to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity for themselves. One lesson we have learned recently is that an industrial dispute with the federal government in Abuja should not affect an industry in Lagos or a factory in Aba or in Kano or even an average Nigerian who just wants to get home after work, watch the news, and sleep under a ceiling fan, not even an air conditioner. Secondly, my policy shall aim at achieving greater coordination of investments in the entire electricity value chain. Investments in additional generation capacity are futile without consideration for the complementary transmission and distribution infrastructure to wield the additional energy. I'd like to tell you a short story of a policy reform I introduced to our government, which would have given Nigeria enough power supply by 2005 before even our leaving office. Unfortunately, that policy was rejected. If we had implemented that policy, we would not be talking about our problems in Nigeria. Thirdly, ahead of procuring additional generation, both transmission and distribution capacity will be enhanced with private sector support for investments. In this regard, we shall incentivize private investors to invest in the development of multiple greenfield mini grid transmission systems to be looped into the super grid in the medium to long term, while allowing the federal government to focus on policy, regulation, and standardization. I listened to one of my competitors who did not know what is green energy. I will stimulate growth to create jobs and wage war against hunger. The economy must grow for economic opportunities to abound. However, economic growth will be meaningless unless our citizens enjoy the benefits of growth, including access to jobs, higher incomes, and enhanced access to social amenities. Poverty reduction shall be the centerpiece of our economic development agenda, and economic performance shall henceforth be measured by the number of jobs created and the number of people lifted out of poverty. To me, anything the private sector wants, I will give. Can you create more jobs for me? I can reduce taxes for you. I can give you incentives. Can you create jobs for me? Can you help me build a railway line from Calabar to Maiduguri? I give you. What are your payment terms? You want tax-free? You want longer payment terms? I will give you, because I don't. Can you tell me if this government has the money to build a railway line from Calabar to Maiduguri? We don't have. So if you don't encourage the private sector to come in and do, who will do it for you? Within the first 100 days in office, I will create an economic stimulus fund with an initial investment capacity of approximately 10 billion to prioritize support for MSCs across the economic sectors, as they offer the greatest opportunities for achieving inclusive growth. Today, millions of Nigerians go to bed hungry every day. Nigeria must feed Nigerians. We will pursue an aggressive and innovative food production. This is my water, I manufacture it. Nigeria must feed Nigerians. We will pursue an aggressive and innovative food production policy that will strongly boost farmers' access to farming goods. We will put farmers first. My government will ensure transparency in the access of farmers to seeds, fertilizers, and farm machinery, as well as processing equipment to boost food production and bring down food inflation. So, we will strongly promote private sector investment in agriculture, from seeds to fertilizers, farm chemicals, farm machinery, to expand our competitiveness in national, regional, and global markets for commodities in which Nigeria has comparative advantage. We will support agro-industrial development for major food crops, livestock, fisheries, and invest heavily in irrigation and climate resilient agricultural systems. We will add value to all of what we produce. These measures are part of the green revolution going on in the world, in the globe. Some people say they don't know what is green something. I will undertake far-reaching fiscal restructuring to improve liquidity and the management of our fiscal resources. There are 5 bold steps to be taken. First, undertake an immediate review of government spending with a view to eliminating all leakages arising from subsidy payments. With its current precarious fiscal position and daunting development challenges, can Nigeria really afford to forgo critical investments in education, health, security, etc., and channel scarce resources to subsidizing the lifestyle of its elites? No. Second, stop all fiscal support to early stage oil enterprises. As with subsidy payments, by withholding onto these underperforming enterprises, Nigeria is sacrificing investments in critical areas, including education, health, water, sanitation, and rural infrastructure. Imagine me, Atiku, I established a university more than 20 years ago. They have never gone on strike for one day. And here are all our government-funded or public universities on strike for more than 6 months. It's a big shame. For example, the first phase in the rehabilitation of Nigerian refineries is expected to gulp 1.5 billion. I will sell all of them. That is what I said in 2019. They said I'm going to sell the NNPC to my friends in Lagos, because I made the announcement here. Third, take steps to improve spending efficiency by gradual reduction of government recurrent expenditures. Over the medium term, recurrent expenditure should not exceed 45% of the budget. And we tried to do that when we were in office. Fourth, undertake a review of government procurement processes to ensure value for money and eliminate all leakages. Finally, focus on non-debt financing by promoting a private sector-led infrastructure development fund for the financing and delivery of key infrastructure projects. On debt accumulation, I will be more strategic and more circumspect. The revelation by Nigeria's finance minister in July this year that the cost of servicing Nigeria's debt has surpassed the federal government's retained revenue by 310 billion in the first quarter of the year is very worrisome. What will I do? I will do the following. Listen to me. Take immediate steps to slow down the rate of debt accumulation by promoting more public-private partnerships in critical infrastructure funding and identifying more innovative funding options. Review the current utilization of all borrowed funds and ensure that they are deployed more judiciously. Specifically, our government will ensure that all borrowed funds are for priority infrastructure projects that would generate income, boost output, and put the economy on the path of sustainable growth. And review the country's debt strategy by focusing on concessional and semi-concessional sources with lower interest rates and relatively long-term maturity. I did this successfully when we were in office, and I see no reason why I cannot do it again. The government must reduce the issuance of short-dated debt instruments. I will undertake far-reaching institutional reforms to engender efficiency and reduce administrative costs. I will introduce reforms that will make the institution interface more efficiently. I will streamline their functions and ensure that they focus on their core responsibilities of policy coordination, facilitation, and standardization, and enabling the appropriate legal and regulatory framework for rapid economic and social development. The private sector is made to deal with too many federal agencies and actors who often make conflicting policy pronouncements as they interact with investors and businesses. And I remember when we were in office, we reduced, the number of federal agencies and the processes the private sector have, of federal agencies. But all of a sudden, they have all resurfaced again. The Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment alone has 17 agencies under its supervision. Some of them I don't know: NIPC, FTZA, NEPC, SMEDAN, BOI, and so on. Many of the agencies lack the technical capacity to deliver on their mandates efficiently. Many of these agencies operate in a typical civil service style with cumbersome processes and delayed decision-making or implementation. Many of you may wish to ask whether Atiku has what it takes to implement these radical initiatives. Our economy is bleak and our challenges daunting. There is no doubt about that. No one should downplay the enormity of the task ahead. Indeed, I cannot think of a more daunting challenge than restoring confidence in the future of Nigeria as a dynamic economy and stable democracy. However, I have three things going for me. Listen, one, first, I have a good grasp of the challenges bedeviling Nigeria. I know the root causes of our problems. I know that many of these problems are self-inflicted and can be reversed if we are determined. And we are determined. Are we not? Second, I will not come unprepared. It is not in my character as a businessman or as a public officer to be caught off guard. My policy document contains the right policies that will be timely delivered. Yes, timely delivered, without any go slow, I can assure you. I will assemble the critical skills and competencies to implement innovative solutions to our problems with desired impact. When assembling competent people, I know of no tribe, I know of no religion, I know of no south, and I know of nothing except competence and the capacity to deliver. I will provide the critical leadership that is needed to deliver. Finally, in economic reforms and economic management matters, I am not a novice. I have a history of economic reform and economic transformation. Remember the good old days of economic growth with macroeconomic stability, low rates of unemployment, and low poverty headcount. As head of the economic management team, 1999 to 2007, I was instrumental in the design of the private sector revival strategy and advocated for the opening of the economy for private sector investments in a number of sectors. Today, it is undeniably the fastest growing services sector, whether it is the IT sector, whether it is the telecom sector, whether it is the banking sector, whether it is the pension reform, name it. I was instrumental. Experience counts. And to avoid the mistakes of the past, never again should Nigerians hand over their future to a greenhorn. As one who can deliver. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can